Good morning, and ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this very special day today, the 17th day of November 2022, and it's a bit of a cloud around here in Brisbane today, and of course we know there's floods around many parts of the countries. We'll take a look at all of those, and what we have today for you is the Daily India Report, and then followed up by the functions and events taking place right here in Brisbane. Well, right now the first news for today is the closure or the declaration in Bali at the G20. What a spectacular event.
Amid the glitz of summit season, it's often the conversations on the sidelines of galas like these that really matter. Anthony Albanese and Xi Jinping rubbing shoulders just hours after China's president ended 6 years of the diplomatic deep freeze.
We have had our differences, and Australia won't resolve from our interests or our values.
China-Australia relations have encountered some difficulties which we do not want to see.
Xi Jinping taking a thinly veiled swipe at Anthony Albanese's predecessor.
I attach great importance to your opinion.
The 32-minute meeting an opportunity to air grievances, one of which is costing Australia billions.
I put forward Australia's position when it comes to the blockages in our trading relationship.
But Beijing's crippling tariffs are still to be lifted.
I believe if people thought that would happen, then that was not realistic.
Mr Albanese also raising concerns about two Australians languishing in Beijing jails, writer Yang Henjun and journalist Cheng Lei. Again, no immediate commitments given.
That's simply not the way that the system works.
Channels of communication now open.
Ultimately, the test of any dialogue will be in the outcomes actually achieved.
Our national interests do not change. National security considerations remain paramount.
The AUKUS Defence Pact not discussed with President Xi, despite China's criticism of the deal, but it will be on the agenda with British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak tonight. That's after talks with Emmanuel Macron, another relationship the Prime Minister says he's had to salvage. What's significant about the meeting between Anthony Albanese and Xi Jinping is that it happened at all, without Australia seeming to concede any ground. But the real test will be whether Beijing acknowledges Australia's concerns with tangible action, or whether pledges of cooperation and conversation are all we get. Matthew Doran, ABC News, Bali.
And of course, that is going to be the sticking point out there as well. But it is wonderful to see that so many, dialogues on the side, as they mentioned, have been taking place. And these are the ones that will make some kind of significant difference moving forward. And any dialogue is only as good as the outcome, as was mentioned. But right now, let's take a look at the flood-prone areas and see what's happening with the floods.
It is such a tough time at the moment for people across this region. Can you tell us what areas are of most concern?
Yeah, good morning, Steph. So large parts of New South Wales are seeing major flooding. Obviously here at Forbes, where the predicted peak is 10.8 metres at some stage today, and we're currently sitting just below 10.7 metres with significant flooding already occurring. More broadly, yesterday's focus was up around the Namoi River at Gunnedah. Those communities of Walgett, Lightning Ridge and Collarenebri, which are experiencing very sustained and long-term flooding out there. Down on the Murrumbidgee, where that peak is heading downstream towards Hay, and obviously the flooding on the Murray River and many other river systems across New South Wales. This is a significant flooding and impact to the communities across New South Wales. We've got over 113 warnings current, 23 of them at emergency warning, 265 requests for assistance to the New South Wales SES in the last 24 hours, and 12 of them were flood rescues. So certainly a lot of risk around. Don't be fooled by the blue skies that we've got in New South Wales today. The risk from these floodwaters is significant. We've got hundreds of emergency services personnel, including the ADF. We've got international and interstate crews. So we've got New Zealand and Singapore arriving today to give us some assistance. So plenty of work happening, plenty of work yet to come. I guess our key focus and our key messages to the communities are obviously to stay out of floodwaters, don't play in floodwaters, don't go for a canoe ride in floodwaters. It's a very dangerous place to be, particularly with all the chemicals. If you do need assistance, give SES a call, 132 500 or 000 if it becomes life-threatening.
And I was going to ask you about that assistance that you've been getting elsewhere and how vital that is, because with more bad weather on the way and the ground already sodden, you're just looking at some really tough times ahead, aren't you?
Yeah, it's extremely tough times, and we're not the only state that has flooding and impacts from severe weather at the moment. So obviously there's significant support from across Australia and now international, supporting many states in Australia, and our volunteers and our partner emergency services. Everyone's in this for the long haul, but you know, it's been a very busy. You know, some of these rivers have been in flood for nearly 18 months. So we need to manage fatigue in the long term. These floodwaters are going to retain some of these water in the rivers for many, many months to come. We're planning out into the new year, into January and February next year with some of our rostering and our workforce management. So this interstate and international support is critical to making sure that we can last the long haul.
And even after that immediate flood threat has passed, there's still the absolute devastation. We saw some of those aerial pictures from Eugowra, and just the scenes there, they really beg a belief, don't they?
Yeah, it was devastating what happened to Eugowra, that the flash flood there, and the significant impact to that community. You know, we're in that clean-up phase there, assisting them with the hosing out and removing all the furniture and items that have been damaged. And here at Forbes, we only just finished the damage assessment and the clean-up here, and 2 weeks later we're back into major flood. So certainly feel for these communities that are having repeated flooding and significant impacts such as Eugowra.
And very sad news about the woman's body being recovered. I understand that there is still one person missing. Can you tell us any more about that?
Yeah, unfortunate news there yesterday. Our flood rescue teams are out supporting New South Wales Police, and will continue to support New South Wales Police in the search for the missing person in Eugowra, and will continue to do so. Hopefully we'll continue to work with police over the coming days and get a resolution there.
And we'll keep an eye on that situation and see how it transpires out of that. Right now, for the next news, let's go to South Australia.
As crews work to restore power nearby, businesses at Coromandel Valley wait to reopen.
We've got a big day ahead of us, trying to catch up after having 5 days off here through the power outage.
Nearly 4,000 SA Power Network customers remain without power, and the opposition says the government should consider stepping in to help some businesses.
Pretty hard for us when you lose $20,000 worth of stock.
There is opportunity for the government to potentially catch those who fall through the gaps.
But Energy Minister Tom Koutsantonis says those losses should be covered by insurance.
Why would then the opposition call on us to replace the obligations of insurance companies with the taxpayer?
Solar households, though, given assurances by the government that their systems won't need to be shut down tomorrow, as had been feared.
In terms of system security, AEMO advised us that South Australia is fine.
AEMO, which runs the network, does concede, though, that with the interconnector to Victoria still down, challenges remain, and some renewable energy generation will need to be curtailed. The opposition already attempting to point the blame for any further outages.
We cannot risk this state losing its power and being blacked out like we were under Tom Koutsantonis in September 2016.
The idea of the opposition playing politics with these sorts of things, I think, is a bit unbecoming.
If the state gets through tomorrow unscathed, the hope is that the vital interconnector will be back up and running by Sunday. James Wakelin, ABC News, Adelaide.
Well, that is a big outage there, 5 days in a row, and as you can see from that fallen tower, the extent of the damage that's been done there. Well, right now, how much do we rely on food deliveries these days? That has become a convenience. People take that for granted, pick up the phone, or just get online, order the food, and that's it, and it will all come on. But lately the service has been diminishing, and we have had so many complaints about deliveries not coming on time, food going missing, and the orders being postponed after waiting, and there's people would. So after all of this has led to the closure or winding up of the food company Deliveroo. Here's that report.
This is going to affect thousands of riders who work for this company, and also thousands of restaurants who rely on it for deliveries every single day. But Deliveroo is a company that's been operating in Australia since 2015, one of the first online delivery companies that was operating here. But this is going to affect around 12,000 partner restaurants, 15,000 riders, and 120 staff that work for the company. The company has cited challenging economic conditions as the reason as to why it has made the decisions to no longer operate on our shores. It already left Germany in 2019 and has also left France and the Netherlands. It's becoming a crowded market, and it dropped to about fourth in the running here in Australia. So all of the staff were sacked yesterday, Steph, and what is happening now is administrators are going through what entitlements some of those staff are owed. The riders themselves are only considered contractors, not actually as employees, and so they will need to send letters or send notices to the administrators to claim any outstanding money they could be owed from Deliveroo, and there's no guarantees that they'll get all of that money back from the company. The Australian Transport Union, it is seeking an urgent sit-down with the administrators of Deliveroo. It's also calling on the federal government to introduce some legislation and some laws there to actually protect some of these workers to ensure that they get what's owed to them.
And not a pretty sight there as well, but what do we do? The company is not financially viable, and of course someone somewhere has to pay, and of course there will be lots of people out of jobs, but there are other companies who are still delivering food, and they too are plagued with that as well, and we have received complaints about many other companies as well. Right now, isn't it time to change the some of the school funding models? So people are not very happy. They reckon it's time it got changed.
It's the final term of the year, and in some remote communities, more than half of enrolled students aren't in class.
What we're seeing is an attendance and an engagement crisis in a lot of Northern Territory schools.
Dan Yaw is a former remote teacher and public health researcher who's witnessed firsthand how the Northern Territory's funding model, known as effective enrolment, works.
This effective enrolment policy does lead to long-term disengagement and dropout of students from high school.
For almost 10 years, the model has seen NT schools allocated funding primarily based on attendance rather than enrolment. So if a school had 100 enrolled students last year, and on average only half attended on its 8 busiest weeks, it would receive funding this year for half its enrolled students. Schools then have to try and re-engage those students not attending, drawing money from the ones that are.
Do we get that vital community member in to come and deliver a cultural program? Or do we get a music teacher in? Or do we get a disability teacher in? And these are tragic decisions that have to be made and put huge pressure on our principals.
Decisions that can leave remote schools without the local staff that are vital for student engagement.
If we want to learn about our own culture, we want to learn from our elders. So the elders and leaders and young teachers need to be there to support us.
With the NT government spending $15 million on engagement already, the Education Minister is adamant more school funding on its own won't improve attendance.
We're looking at that funding model around that. Will it be the Holy Grail? Will it fix attendance in our schools, in our remotes? I can tell you no.
For now, schools are having to do more with less. Oliver Chaseling, ABC News.
Doing more with less, that seems to be the call of the day, and that's how things are happening around businesses, schools and everywhere. Times are tough. Ladies and gentlemen, right now it's time to go to our daily India report.
Welcome to the Daily India Report. That brings you reports, interviews, features and more on India and the Indian diaspora. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi met US President Joe Biden and President of Indonesia Joko Widodo on the sidelines of the G20 Leaders Summit in Bali and discussed the Ukraine conflict and its implications.
Prime Minister Modi met the US President and Indonesian President on November 15th to discuss immediate and urgent issues. Officials said Modi and Biden touched upon the Ukraine conflict and its implications in their meeting. The Ministry of External Affairs of India said that the US and Indian heads of government also discussed topical global and regional developments in the meeting. The official statement from India said that Modi and Biden reviewed the continuing deepening of India-US strategic partnership, including cooperation in future-oriented sectors like critical and emerging technologies, advanced computing, artificial intelligence, etc. Modi affirmed that G20 is the premier forum for international economic cooperation and underlined the importance of the G20, continuing to demonstrate its capacity to bring together major economies and overcome global challenges. G20 is working together to restore sustainable and inclusive growth in G20 economies and beyond, tackle the ongoing climate, energy and food crisis, strengthen global health architecture and promote technological transformation. Modi said that India would give voice to other developing countries during its presidency and emphasized G20's role in assisting vulnerable countries, supporting inclusive development, strengthening economic security and global supply chains, developing improved and innovative financing models for multilateral financial institutions, providing solutions to challenges like climate change, pandemics, economic fragility, reducing poverty and achieving SDGs, and leveraging public and private financing to close the infrastructure gap. Modi thanked President Widodo and President Biden for their commitment to supporting G20's work under India's presidency.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi met the Indian diaspora in Bali and said that their accomplishments make the country proud. He emphasized that the Indian community is playing an instrumental role in the development and prosperity of Indonesia.
Addressing the diaspora in Bali, Indonesia, Prime Minister Modi said that India is a ray of hope for the world in the 21st century. He added that India is moving with an unprecedented speed and scale today, and the country's talent, technology, innovation and industries have made their significant mark in the world. Modi said the country's self-sufficiency in medicines and vaccines during the COVID pandemic benefited the world. Modi said that India and Indonesia are connected by shared heritage and culture. He said there was much that India and Indonesia have in common. The Prime Minister said 1500 kilometers away from Bali, Bali Jatra Mahotsav is being celebrated at Cuttack in Odisha, and this Mahotsav celebrates thousands of years old India-Indonesia trade relations. He said at a time when the Grand Ram Temple is taking shape in India, India also proudly remembers the Ramayan tradition of Indonesia. The Prime Minister said India stood firmly with Indonesia in challenging times. He added India had started Operation Samudra Maitri when a big earthquake struck Indonesia in 2018. On the contribution made by the Indian community in the development of Indonesia, the Prime Minister said, the accomplishments of the Indian diaspora make the country proud. Modi said Indians are playing an instrumental role in the development and prosperity of Indonesia.
UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has given a go-ahead for 3,000 visas annually for young professionals from India to work in the UK.
UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has given the go-ahead for 3,000 visas for young professionals from India to work in the UK each year. The British government said India is the first visa national country to benefit from such a scheme, highlighting the strength of the UK-India Migration and Mobility Partnership agreed in 2021. UK Prime Minister's office said in a tweet, quote, "Today the UK-India Young Professional Scheme was confirmed, offering 3,000 places to 18 to 30-year-old degree-educated Indian nationals to come to the UK to live and work for up to 2 years," end quote. This announcement in the Downing Street readout came hours after Rishi Sunak met Modi on the sidelines of the 17th edition of the G20 summit. This was their first meeting after the first Indian origin British PM assumed office last month. Indian Prime Minister's office tweeted, quote, "Prime Ministers at Narendra Modi and at Rishi Sunak in conversation during the first day of the at G20 org summit in Bali," end quote. Under the new UK-India Young Professional Scheme, the UK will offer 3,000 places annually to 18 to 30-year-old degree-educated Indian nationals to come to the UK to live and work in the UK for up to 2 years. The scheme is reciprocal. The UK Prime Minister's office emphasized that the launch of the scheme marked a significant moment both for our bilateral relationship with India and the UK's wider commitment to forging stronger links with the Indo-Pacific region to strengthen both our economies. It said the UK has more links with India than almost any country in the Indo-Pacific region. Nearly a quarter of all international students in the UK are from India, and Indian investment in the UK supports 95,000 jobs across the UK. The UK is currently negotiating a trade deal with India, and if agreed, it will be the first deal of its kind India has made with a European country. The trade deal would build on the UK-India trading relationship already worth £24 billion and allow the UK to seize the opportunities presented by India's growing economy. In parallel to the mobility partnership with India, the British government said it is also strengthening its ability to remove immigration offenders. On the issue, the UK Prime Minister's office said that a landmark memorandum of understanding was signed between the UK and India in May 2021 aimed at increasing mobility between our countries, returning those with no right to be in the UK and India respectively, and sharing best practices on organised immigration crime.
The free trade agreement between India and the United Kingdom is now expected to be finalized by March 2023.
The UK-India earlier had a deadline of October 24th and was to be announced around the festival of Diwali in 2022. But it is now expected to be closed by March 2023. Talks were supposed to be finished by October and were delayed due to final bilateral discussions and a change in the top leadership of UK. The UK-India FTA aims to double bilateral trade by 2030, could not be done by late October, the initial target for concluding the talks. The discussions are being fast-tracked with a new deadline of March 2023. An announcement is expected soon on the discussions to be held either the ministerial level or the secretary level. Recently, the Mayor of West Midlands, Andy Street, a member of Britain's governing Conservative Party, said India should prioritize reducing tariffs on manufactured goods to benefit sectors like the automotive industry. 14 out of the 26 chapters of the trade deal have been finalized. A UK delegation to visit soon will aim to agree on the finer aspects of the rest of the chapters. In October 2022, Britain's new Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, the country's first leader of Indian descent, conveyed his hope of finalizing the trade agreement during a call with his Indian counterpart Narendra Modi.
India has upscaled military infrastructure near the line of actual control in a bid to counter Chinese infrastructure build-up near the Pangong Tso Lake in Ladakh.
China has been building up military infrastructure near the LAC. The Indian Army has countered that with expanding and enhancing infrastructure for housing 450 tanks and over 22,000 troops in the eastern Ladakh sector opposite China. India has responded to China's aggressive movements in the Pangong Tso Lake shared between India and China. Officials said the Indian Army's Corps of Engineers has inducted new landing crafts in both eastern Ladakh that has given a huge impetus to the patrolling capabilities and induction of men and equipment. The craft can carry 35 troops or one keeper with 12 men. 3D printed permanent defences have been constructed for the first time by the Indian Army's Corps of Engineers in the desert sector. These defences were trial tested against a range of weapons from small arms to the main gun of the T-90 tank. Such defences are able to withstand blasts, can be erected within 36 to 48 hours and can be relocated from one place to another. There are a number of infrastructure development projects being made by the Border Roads Organization along the China border, in which there are currently 9 tunnels, which include the 2.535 km long Sela Tunnel, which will be the highest bi-lane tunnel in the world once completed. 11 more tunnels are also under planning.
Tata Motors and Cummins Inc. have signed an agreement to work together to design and develop low and zero emission propulsion technology solutions for commercial vehicles in India.
Tata Motors and Cummins Inc. have partnered together to provide solutions in the hydrogen-powered commercial vehicle industry. The two parties will work together to design and develop low and zero emission propulsion technology solutions for commercial vehicles in India. These solutions will include fuel cells, internal combustion engines that run on hydrogen, and battery electric vehicle systems. Cummins Inc. already has a portfolio of zero-emission product portfolio, including 4th generation fuel cell engine. N. Chandrasekaran, Executive Chairman of Tata Sons and Chairman of Tata Motors, said the shift to sustainable mobility is irreversible and Tata Motors is committed to being amongst the leaders of green mobility. Tata is taking definitive steps to drive this global mega trend forward in each group business. He said the tie-up strengthened Tata Motors' long-standing relationship with Cummins for their next generation hydrogen propulsion systems. Tata Motors has had a joint venture with Cummins since 1993 to manufacture Cummins mid-range B-series diesel engines for Tata vehicles. Cummins strongly believes that this collaboration is a significant step forward to achieving India's green hydrogen mission. Also, this pact further solidifies the association between the two partners and is aligned with India's vision of energy for sustainable growth and achieving net zero carbon emissions by 2070.
Bollywood launches another star kid. The trailer of the film Kala, starring Babel Khan, son of late Bollywood actor Irfan Khan, was released in Mumbai on November 15th.
Late Bollywood star Irfan Khan's son Babel Khan will make his Bollywood debut with the film Kala. Ahead of the film's OTT release, the makers of Kala released the official trailer of the movie. A grand trailer launch event was held in Mumbai on November 15th. The trailer of Kala was earlier released on YouTube and it's garnering positive reviews. The trailer depicts a complicated tale of a young singer and her mother. However, it is Babel Khan's character that brings a twist to this tale. Babel will be seen playing the role of Jagan in Kala with Tripti Dimri, Varun Grover and Amit Sial. Netflix shared the official trailer of Kala on Instagram. The caption to the post read, "The innocence in her voice is only matched by the pain in her eyes. We are already preparing ourselves to experience the roller coaster of emotions that is Kala, coming 1st December, streaming only on Netflix." The official synopsis of this film reads, "Set in 1940s Kolkata, Kala chronicles the complicated relationship between a young singer and her mother. With all her sacrifices be worth the success she gets." Kala is set to release on Netflix on 1st December 2022.
That's all for this bulletin of the Daily India Report.
And thank you very much, Ankita, for that report. Well, ladies and gentlemen, right now it's time to look at from the functions and events taking place right here. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's about all we have time for you today on the 17th day of November, and it's 21 degrees and mostly cloudy here in Brisbane at the moment, and a little bit of sun is shining through those clouds at the moment from where we sit. Well, right now it's time to say goodbye until tomorrow. We'll see you then.